You're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm MEZ, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Ryan, and you're listening to Season 5, or Quinky, of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast, the podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40K, and I am the noob trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. And as you guys probably know, if you're watching this right now or listening to it, we are talking about the Orks in this. I don't know what we are talking about the Orks in this season, and we were actually nearing the end, which we suddenly found out we're not. So I really hope that you guys are enjoying the Orks, because we still have a little bit to cover, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still a bit to go. A little bit more than I had initially thought about, yeah. So it'll be fine. It's a bunch of events that all like roll together pretty close together, so it's fine. It's basically going to go one directly into the next. It'll just seem like one big thing. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't think too much about it. It's fine.
Yeah, don't question it. Just keep watching and enjoy.
Yes.
So, do you remember what we were talking about last time?
I'm not gonna lie, I've had a long day of work. You have to enlighten me and the viewers, of course, on this day. They literally heard the last episode and just coming into this now.
Yeah, they might be listening to this on like a playlist. And they're like, God, I hate having to listen to these idiots at the start every time. God, just get it.
You take it.
Okay, so we start talking about the third war for Armageddon, Ghazghkull's second try at this. Obviously, he kept Yarrick in the game because he wanted Yarrick to be here so he could get a good fight out of it. So Yarrick's been here building up the defenses. We ended last time by giving you the whole rundown of the massive army of troops that Yarrick was able to get ready to defend this place, while Ghazghkull and his boys were still in space dealing with a navy. So, we're getting to the actual war part of this now. Like, once Ghazghkull starts getting troops on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be a roller coaster. I hope you're prepared.
I don't know if I am. I'm shaking.
We're gonna see the return of a character we thought long gone, which is hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see when we get there. Don't worry.
Okay.
So, once the Imperial blockade broke over the planet, Ghazghkull's first move is to obliterate Hades Hive from orbit. That is the place that Yarrick was able to like keep him at bay and waste his time at the first time they did this. So the first thing he does is just nuke it from orbit. It's like, not doing that shit again. Fuck you, Yarrick. You're not getting to do the same shit again. Unfortunately, Yarrick saw that coming and he evacuated the place, so he just blew up an empty hive. But it's a cool way to start a war. So it really says, we have arrived, when this whole city just disappears.
The Kool-Aid man, just boom. What a way to make... No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have made that reference. I know you love that.
I do love it. Oh yeah. Just one giant orc bursting out of the crater. So now might be an appropriate time for me to switch to the map of Armageddon as the background piece. So, it's the same planet as last time, so the layout is basically the same. Armageddon Secundus, which is where the war primarily took place the first time, is on the east. There's a jungle in the middle, and then there is Armageddon Primus, or Armageddon Prime, sorry, on the west. And yeah, this is the jungle that Herman von Straub was adamant orcs couldn't cross. Which is not true. So yeah, that's the same basic layout, right? Bunch of hive cities on this side, jungle in the middle, so on and so forth. Cool.
Yes.
So, orc forces start landing planetside after Hades is wiped off the face of the planet. They did this using a combination of methods to get orcs onto the planet. The first was just normal lander ships, little shuttles that go between the ship in orbit and the planet to drop off dudes. The other is what's called a rock, which is a little meteor that the orcs have hollowed out so they can get inside. And then what they do is they strap rockets to the back of it and put a little like mini shield generator on it so that it'll survive like hitting the ground. And then they just launch themselves full speed at the planet in a little hollowed out meteor. It's effective because it's basically a big boulder, and that worked really well in medieval times. So, like, whatever it hits is gonna die. If it hits nothing, you've now got, like, a little defensive structure to fight from. So your orcs don't just get wiped out the second they're on the planet. So, great strategy. Absolutely wonderful strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main thing about them initially was that they were a great form of, like, cover for the orc troops. They didn't just get peppered with gunshots as soon as they landed. The ones getting out of the landers, like, I mean, just shoot at the back door. It's the only way they can come out. You'll get them. Doesn't really work with a meteor, so, yeah. So, pretty quickly, there is an assload of little green bastards running all over Armageddon, right? Because they've just, like, scoured the planet with these fucking things to get as many green fuckers on there as possible. Obviously, the Air Force and stuff keep flying planes over and try to shoot these things before they hit the ground, but limited success when there's that many of them coming down. Sheer numbers means the orcs are going to get guys on the ground, regardless of what the Air Force does. But they do try.
Yeah.
So, pretty soon, there is, like, millions of orcs on Armageddon. Like, it takes very little time to get into the millions of orcs. And one of the first places they get to is Hell's Reach, which we dealt with last time a little bit. And I'm going to show you a guy, right? This is Reclusiarch Grimaldus.
He looks grim.
He does. He looks like Duke Nuk'em to me. If you put sunglasses on him...
Oh my god.
Right? I'm going to tell you now, right. Reclusiarch Grimaldus 100% has balls of steel.
And a fire.
Yeah. So he is the Reclusiarch of one of the groups of the Black Templars that are on this planet, right? And him and 100 of his like battle brothers are stationed at Hell's Reach to protect the place. Along with a bunch of Imperial Guard as standard, because they're just everywhere. There's that many of the fucking normal guardsmen. They are just everywhere. So, the Hell's Reach situation is a siege, but it pretty quickly turns into, like, a final battle kind of thing. And the siege ends with the orcs trying to, like, attack this massive, basilica, this giant, like, temple, called the Temple of the Emperor Ascendant. And as you would expect with a giant temple, it's full of, like, ancient holy relics and stuff. So the Black Templars, being that they are incredibly religious, feel the need to try and protect these things, right? So that's why it ends up as a siege of this temple rather than, like, any better defended building in the city. It's because the Templars are trying to protect this holy site and its relics. So the orcs end up having to come to them, basically. So the battle pretty quickly became like a bloody melee, because the orcs just started piling inside the building. You can't really start firing guns around the inside of a church you don't want to blow up. So they just start pummeling and stabbing and kicking orcs left, right, and centre. Whatever you can hit them with, it'll spray blood but won't, like, destroy stuff.
Yeah.
This goes on until all the humans have fled in fear, a bunch of the Templars have died, a shitload of orcs have died. There's like a mountain of them blocking the door eventually. But
oh god.
The kind of end point of this is that the fighting only stopped when the temple fell down on top of Grimaldus and the last of his brothers. Like, the building collapsed before they stopped fighting. And it just buried them.
That sounds like quite a party, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to do it. For the record, though, interesting thing, Grimaldus survived. He, like, dug himself out of the rubble, like, 3 days later. He's still alive now, I think. He, like, goes on to fight in a bunch of, like, future battles.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, he's quite a cool guy. I'm pretty sure he gets, like, some kind of weird title for it, like, for doing that, for surviving like that, trying to defend the holy objects. Because again, the Black Templars are incredibly religious, which is rare for a Space Marine chapter. Most of them are like, yeah, our dad isn't a god, and his dad's not a god. It's just kind of magic.
Yeah, wasn't it also kind of forbidden, you know?
Yeah, it totally is, but like not anymore. So the Black Templars are like totally embracing the whole religious thing.
Yeah.
It's their whole shtick, okay? It's their whole thing. It is 100% of their personality is being religious.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works for them, okay? They're very effective soldiers, regardless of their own particular beliefs. They're incredibly effective at their job, so I do not question it. Outside of that, back to like the normal battlefield. So we'll go back to the map, because why not? So, the Imperials pretty quickly found that the rocks, the little asteroids the Orks were using as transport, were a little bit more important than they had initially appeared, because this is when Ghazghkull started breaking out the teleporter technology. All of the rocks had a teleporter beacon inside them. So he used it to teleport down all of his like tanks and vehicles and his his titans and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they could just immediately materialize, so they couldn't be destroyed on the way down or anything. So they could just appear ready to fight, no fucking around. So
Damn.
the Imperials have to like stand in their like fortresses behind their battle lines, whatever, as they just watch like armies of tanks spawn among the Ork horde. Like, bollocks.
Shit.
Gargants, helicopters, tanks, everything just starts teleporting in among the massive Ork army. Like, if you didn't know you were fucked before, you do now.
That's a bad day.
Yeah, it's not great. So yeah, now there's Titans on the field, so that's great. Well, I mean, the Imperials had Titans already, but now Ghazghkull's got Titans.
We love Ghazghkull.
We do. So, do you remember back in the Second War for Armageddon, Hercule von Strab, the guy who was supposed to be in charge of the planet, who was wildly incompetent?
Yes, I remember. I liked his name. It sounded funny.
Yeah. So, he's still around, interestingly. He's not in charge of anything, because he was charged as a criminal for being so unbelievably incompetent back then. He is still around, as a side thing, but, he has made a deal with Ghazghkull.
Yeah.
So he's on the Ork side in this round. So he manages to break out of his like prison and take over Hive Acheron in the name of Ghazghkull. So Hive Acheron just falls. Like, the Imperials are just sitting there and they get word that Acheron has fallen. They're like, the fuck happened? There's not even any Orks over there. And they're like, yeah, it turns out Von Strab's still pissed about the last time.
God.
That's fun. And another fun detail, you know that jungle that Orks can't cross? It turns out when the Orks were in there the first time, you know, when they were crossing the jungle, they left a bunch of Ork spores there. So now there's just a shitload of tribal, like, feral Orks living in the jungle that, like, hear the call to war and start spilling out on both sides of the jungle. So there's just feral Orks reinforcing Ghazghkull's army from the other side.
Amazing.
So the Imperials are being flanked by tribal feral Orks.
God.
It's all going to hell pretty quick. It's good times, man.
Pause, yeah.
So, obviously, everything's kind of fucked for the Imperials, right? So Yarrick starts, like, doing his fucking job as commander and commissar and gets everyone to, like, you know, get off their asses and start doing their fucking jobs. Probably tell some kind of rallying speech to get everyone to, like, you know, feel like doing something. And what ends up happening is, like, that the Imperial defenses kind of get a second wind. They kind of, like, get back into the fight a bit after their initial beatdown. and they all kind of start to come together to fight properly. So the primary part of this is that the Space Marines start forming like battle lines to hold back the Orks, and then obviously the Guardsmen start doing the same thing or start reinforcing the Space Marines, stuff like that. So they start being able to like hold the Orks back and hold strategic locations and stuff like that. And a little fun detail, a group called the Last Chancers. These are a penal squad, so they are criminals that have been forced to do like suicide missions. Have you ever seen the movie The Expendables?
Yes.
Yeah, think of them as the Expendables, right? They're all essentially action stars, like action movie heroes. Because the idea is that the Last Chancers are not a normal penal company. They are a penal company that is like illegally made of the best soldiers ever, specifically so that they can justify sending this like crack team with like an action movie style cast into suicidal missions.
Yeah.
So these guys get sent to go get Von Straub, and they fucking murder him.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. It's like squad of criminal prisoner soldiers just rock up in Acheron and murder him.
Hey, let's go.
For the record, the Last Chancers are like, they turn up a few times. They have a few really good stories. So we actually should look at the Last Chancers at some point. It's like, it's not always the same people. Like, 'cause, again, suicide missions, a bunch of them die every time and then they have to get new people. But like, as a group, their stories are really interesting. So we should look into this at some point. Oh.
We should.
Yeah. So, Orks are everywhere. Imperials are rallying a bit. Acheron fell because of Von Straub, and then immediately Von Straub was killed by a bunch of prisoners. So that problem solved itself, I guess. So the next area we have to look at is the Equatorial Jungle. And,
Ooh.
yeah. So the thing is, right, like I said, there's a bunch of feral Orks pouring out of here and reinforcing Ghazghkull. The issue is not the numbers or that they're feral or anything like that. The issue is that they're coming from behind Imperial defensive lines in a lot of areas. They are like a flanking force. And because the jungle's so big, they could come out of like the north of it, the south of it, the middle. Like there's no way to like defend
pretty
against
much
the
everywhere.
entire jungle line, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is they send in a bunch of guardsmen and a couple of like groups of space marines to go in and basically deal with the Orks, right? And it's either just to stop them coming out, like to, you know, take an area and just protect it so the Orks don't get out, or to hunt through the jungle murdering as many Orks as possible so that there's less to go help, right? Like the Imperials are basically going, look, we're going to send you guys in. We don't want to have to think about the forest Orks anymore. Just figure out a way to make that okay. And this is an interesting bit, right? Because of the guardsmen they send in, right, a bunch of them are like Armageddon Ork hunters, which were, you know, pretty self-explanatory. And a bunch of them are the Catachan jungle fighters, you know, Sly Marbos dudes. And they're like perfect for fighting in a jungle. So they do a really good job of dealing with the Orks. And they're able to stop the Orks from being able to like pass out of the jungle in the west. So Armageddon Prime is no longer being buffeted by this extra force of Orks. But there's only so many guardsmen, so they can't really do anything about the other side. At the same time, right, I would say that stopping the Orks going one direction is like a pretty solid, that's 50% success rate on the part of normal humans that are really good at murdering Orks in jungles. That's pretty good success rate to me. The Space Marines that go in have what I would say is like a 0 to a negative 100% success rate at this. They are startlingly ineffective. Because what happens is they send in they send in some Black Templars, right? and they also send, or they don't send in.
Right. Right.
There is a chapter called the Relictors, right? And they are being called to aid a bunch of different locations on the planet that are being ravaged by orcs. And instead, they choose to ignore those orders and go fuck around in the jungle instead. So they are not sent into the jungle. They just turn up at the jungle and refuse to go anywhere else. But the Black Templars go. They're told to be there to a degree, so that's something. Yeah. So the idea is that the Black Templars are, you know, I'm going to tell you a little bit about these chapters. Black Templars, 100% religious. That's their whole gimmick, right? They hate chaos. Everything about it's intrinsically evil, must be destroyed in all its forms. Blah, 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 blah. Religious shit. The Relictors, on the other hand, at this point, are currently on a penal crusade. They're forced to be here because of their crimes. And their crime was using chaos artifacts. So, they're not a great group to have stuck in a jungle with the Holy Crusader Marines, you know? It's not a great pairing, as you might imagine. Yeah. So, the Relictors also had with them an Inquisitor called Halstrom, who was leading a little group of the Relictors. So they were looking for a thing called Angron's Monolith, which is a relic from the first war for Armageddon, because Angron was there. It was a very demon-y war for the first war for Armageddon. And the Relictors are looking for this, because it's their whole thing, is chaos artifacts that they're not allowed to use, but they do anyway, because, well, I don't know. They're kind of stupid. Anyway. And at the same time, you've also got the Black Templars running around in the jungle who are looking for an orc war boss called Grimscar. They're essentially there on an assassination mission, right? And they happen to run into a little group of the Relictors. Because the Relictors end up kind of split up at one point. One group's got the Inquisitor with them, and they're going for the Monolith. The other group run into the Black Templars and end up with them for a bit. So the combined group of both types of Marine find just an ancient chaos portal that's just been open on this planet since the first war for Armageddon. And obviously there's a bunch of orcs around it, because orcs see a chaos portal and go, what the fuck is that? Must investigate. But also there's a bunch of like ancient world eaters piling out of the portal. So the orcs are like, oh cool, cool guys to fight. So when the Black Templars and the Relictors find this portal, they obviously set about murdering the orcs and then murdering the world eaters and closing the portal.
Of course.
So pretty standard good guy stuff there, I would say. That is the case until after they've killed all the world eaters and closed the portal. One of the Relictors picks up a chaos artifact off of the body of one of the world eaters, and there's a point where one of the Black Templars sees him do this, and it's just like, heretic. And then they just break out into full-scale war between each other. Like, there is no questioning, there is no, like, please explain your actions right now, because I'm having serious doubts about you. It was just straight to gunfire.
Caught in 4K, right?
Yeah, that's exactly
no explanation.
It. It's like, Nani the fuck?
No explanation, just caught in 4K, I don't care. Don't explain, I don't care. You're gonna die.
Yeah, so there was a bit of infighting there, and the Relictors were basically just murdered for their behavior. But the other group of the Relictors that were with the Inquisitor that had wandered off, they find Angron's Monolith, which has a chunk of Angron's axe buried in it. That's it's the chunk of the axe is the important bit. So, they take the shard of the axe out of the monolith, but in doing so, it lets out this big weird psychic shriek, all it does is draw like a bunch of forest orcs to them. So suddenly there's like 20 Relictors and an Inquisitor surrounded by like magically angry like 10,000 feral orcs just running at them from every direction. And the Relictor that has the Shard of the Axe has to like use its weird chaos powers to turn himself into like an avatar of rage and just go into like a blind blood rage to murder all the orcs. It gets to a point that he's so angry that they run away from him. The orcs run from him.
Okay.
But that is the power of Angron, I would say, is being unbelievably angry. That is kind of his whole gimmick. So
yeah.
Yeah. And once that was dealt with, I'm pretty sure the guy falls unconscious and they basically just pick him up and carry him away because they're like, I did his job and we've got the axe bit now. Interesting detail. The Relictors, now that they have the artifact that they came to this planet for, leave.
Oh.
They just peace out. Like, yeah, we weren't here for the orcs or for the whole war for Armageddon thing, or even for the fact that we were on a penal crusade and we were told to be here. No, we just came to get like the axe bit. The rest of it was just convenient for us to turn up. People would ask questions if we invaded this planet otherwise. So they just leave.
Oh. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, like, I'm taking my axe shard and going home. Fuck you.
I don't know.
Interestingly, they don't go home. Do you want to know where they go?
Where did they go?
They went to Cadia for the 13th Black Crusade because it's like a week away at this point.
Oh god.
Like Cadia is about to get blown up by Abaddon the Despoiler in like genuinely like 6 months to a year from this point in the war. Like it's about to happen. So these guys, like I think one of their navigators or one of their like astropaths started seeing like signs that this was about to go down. So they just like, all right, fuck it, we're going. So they just fucked off to Cadia to help defend against the 13th Black Crusade. Just didn't tell anyone anything. So that's fun.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think maybe that's a good place to leave off for today.
All right. Do you want me to round it out?
Yeah, I think I do.
Well, welly. I don't know why.
When was the last time you wore a pair of wellies?
I can't remember, to be honest.
I think I must have been like 4 years old.
Probably the same here. That's a long time ago. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Iterators of the Imperium podcast. It's been me, MEZ, and Ryan, and we will see you in the next one. Take care and peace.
Bye.